Okay, come on.
We get there in the end.
Oh my God, it's
Okay, let's kick off. Thank you for joining us. You had problems with your hotel, I understand.
Oh, no, I just got told you're all in the toilet.
Yeah. Before we hadn't paid your bill. Well, that's what it was.
Oh, you're taking a
David,
picture?
let's kick off if we can with the book. Obviously, as I said in the introduction, there's things in this film that many of your fans will recognise, that you touched on, sort of violence, corporations, desire. What were the other elements that attracted you to the novel Cosmopolis by Don DeLay?
Do I have to switch it on? Yes, I did.
You have to do everything here.
Okay, see, I'm good with technology, honestly. Yeah, I don't really think about my other films, when I'm making a movie, because it actually doesn't help me to make the new movie, to think about what I did in the old one. So, and people do tend to think that I have a list of things, the body horror or the identity or whatever, before I do a movie. But really, it's all intuitive, it's all spontaneous. And when I read the novel of Don DeLillo, Cosmopolis, it was the dialogue really that struck me, and I thought, wow, this is incredible dialogue. I really would love to hear wonderful actors speaking this stuff, because I think it would reveal all kinds of things. And so I really wrote the script, literally I wrote it in 6 days, because I just transcribed the dialogue and put it in the form of a screenplay, and then filled in the spaces left over, and that was it. So that, to me, that's how it felt to me. Nothing more complicated than that.
I was going to ask also, I was reading an interview with Paolo Branco, the film's producer, who jokingly referred to you as the go-to guy for unfilmable novels. Obviously you did Crash and The Naked Lunch. Now, Cosmopolis has difficulties because it's obviously mainly set in a car. How did you meet these challenges, and how did you also make changes in adaptation to make it for a screenplay?
Well, I've had the experience of doing, adapting quite a few novels, including Stephen King's Dead Zone and J.G. Ballard's Crash and William Burroughs' Naked Lunch and Patrick McGraw's Spider. So by this time, I'm well aware that there are a lot of things that are they are unfilmable. That, in other words, there are things that you could do in a novel that you simply shouldn't even bother trying to do in cinema. You'll do something else. And you have to accept that you are creating a new thing. You are not really putting the novel on the screen. You are creating a brand new thing. And we've all seen movies where you have a voiceover where somebody is reading the novel to you as though you're some child at bedtime. And I think that is an admission of failure. You have failed to understand the cinematic equivalent of what the book is. And so you try to fill it in with just reading the book. So I actually, the reason I could write the screenplay so quickly partly is because I knew which parts to just not deal with, to just leave out. And those are the things that were just so literary, innately literary, that there was no equivalent. And I can give you an example. Have you all seen the movie? Yes. Good. Well, in the book, Benno, the character played by Paul Giamatti, writes a journal. And in that journal, he talks about the body of Eric Packer lying on the floor beside him. And this is very early in the book. And he goes on, and you get to be inside the head of Benno Levin. And when I met Don DeLillo in Estoril, in Portugal, he said, I was wondering how you were going to handle Benno's diary, and the way you handled it was to leave it out. And I said, yes, because I can't do that on film. I really can't. But what I give you instead is Paul Giamatti. I give you his face, his voice, his eyes, the way he moves. So that's my credit default swap, to use, from ancient term. I give you that instead of Benno's journal, and that's the cinematic thing that I can do. And so that really is basically, for me, the way the process feels.
Let's bring Robert in, because we played your last film released in the UK here, Bellamy. And I was impressed by that film because apparently you made a small trilogy about werewolves. But that film, you seem to be really challenging yourself in moving into roles which are quite far removed from that. Bellamy, you played a character, to put it politely, was a cad. He was out for what he could get in life. Your character, Eric Packer here, is even more complex. He has a lot of issues. He has a very, very dark side. Was this a deliberate move to kind of test yourself and move into more varied water?
kind of tried to follow stuff.
It's that button.
Turn it off. Yeah, no, I don't think I tried to move away from anything in particular. I mean, Bellamy, I read about after the first Twilight and liked it then, and I thought it was kind of funny. It's the only job I've ever done where I was thinking it's kind of interesting with the audience perception, like these people. Well, maybe it was after the second Twilight where you're playing one character which is supposed to be like the ideal boyfriend or whatever, and then you play some guy who's literally just preying on bastardizing people loving him. But then I ended up doing it way afterwards when I kind of felt differently about myself. I'd done it 2 more Twilight films by that point. But this, I just found this seemed really, really, really new. It wasn't just good. It was something which I don't think I'd seen before. And also, I mean, not just in the writing, but in some of the subject matter. Like, I don't think you're going to see a 6-minute long prostate examiner scene.
I have a collection of those scenes from other movies. I'll show them to you later.
And I mean, can I also ask, because I said before, I mean, for me, having David Cronenberg here is such a big thing. Was he a director whose work you sought out, that you knew? Was he somebody that you wanted to work with, or was it something that the project came in when you discovered some of the other films that you've made?
David's an adjective. You don't really think about and being able to work with adjectives. Like, it's kind of, it never even came into my head at all. I mean, and the way it kind of, it came completely out of the blue, and I didn't. It took me a while to really process it. And still, and seeing the movie, I like the movie, and there's something so sort of foreign about it. And then it gets into Cannes and all this stuff. And I'm just like, it's so bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't sorted out at all. I was thinking about, I was oversaturated at the time when I got offered it, and I wanted to do small parts and ensemble pieces. And then this one is almost, my character's like obnoxiously present
In virtually every scene.
Yeah, and like incessantly speaking, and just like, and also even the way David shot it was like the camera like 8 inches away from my face and stuff. Like, it was not what I thought I was going to end up doing, but it's also was a very hard thing to say no to.
And how did you find your character? Because this is the second time I've seen the film, and you do kind of realise the complexity. He seems to me to have a kind of revulsion with himself and with the world he's kind of living in. He seems to be desperately unhappy at almost what he's become, and his acts become more and more self-destructive as the film continues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if he's unhappy. I think it's he's just incredibly. I mean, I think if the film has any kind of comment, this is why I always feel really comfortable with saying, like, oh, the film means this and it means that whenever I'm by myself, when I sit in there. And there's kind of the absurdity of the world. I mean, that's what when I first read it, it read as an absurd comedy, and then people take it. When we were in Cannes, like hardly anyone's laughing at anything. We're like, oh, it's funny.
People were laughing here.
They were French. You know.
But yeah, it's kind of. It's not so much about trying to destroy yourself. I think it's he thinks you look at everything. If the world doesn't make sense at all, then it has to start again. And you see it again and again and again. I mean, it's quite a sort of time of story. Is that you look at things about the financial crisis and stuff, which people say it's sort of about that, which we weren't thinking about. But I mean, that to me, you need to be prophetic to predict that something that makes absolutely no sense is going to completely fall apart. I mean, I don't think he's deliberately. He suddenly sees it for the first time, and once you once you see something, if you really see the world, then it all crumbles.
I mean, David mentioned Paul Giamatti, who's fantastic, but the whole cast, I mean, everybody is very good. How did it feel to be in amongst those? Because, you know, if you forgive veteran actors, you know, Juliette Binoche and Samantha Morgan is great. You know, what was it like acting alongside them, and how much did you allow yourself to kind of learn from their experiences?
I just spent the whole movie in like perpetual terror. Like, I mean, it wasn't like you could spend the first 2 weeks getting used to the movie and the world of it, because there'd be a new person every few days. But being able to at least have the limo remain the same, it was kind of, because it was a weird environment to work in, because there's no one even behind the camera. I mean, that you can see, and normally, well, how I tried to act before, you try and connect to the guy whose eyes in the camera, not so much the camera. And in this, you start having a relationship with the camera, like an inanimate object, and it's just really odd. And I think a lot of the actors who came in, they kind of really, it's not a particularly nice feeling to begin with. So these big actors who were coming in, I was like far more comfortable with the environment than they were at the beginning, especially people like Juliette and stuff. Which was great for me, because I would have been shitting myself.
Was it more comfortable to do the scenes outside of the car? I mean, when David was saying about some of the scenes he left out, I know Don DeLillo's a very big fan of the film, I understand it. But there are scenes that take place outside of the limousine, in the barber shop, in the restaurants. The scene with Matteo Amari, because the pastry assassin was great. You know, did they provide a kind of relief for you once you were able to get outside of the film?
Sort of. I noticed. Is this on?
Yeah.
I noticed there's a walk. When I got out, my walk changed. It was a walk which kind of, it's not my walk. Yes, and it's weird thing as it seemed when I was walking up to Benno's apartment. I just noticed it the other day. I was like, really weird. And
actually, when you go to attack the photographers after the pastry assassin, you have a walk I've never seen it on screen. Very weird, like a centipede. I don't know. I loved it. I mean, it was great, and it was spontaneous, you know.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I think there's something about being an alien. I mean, you kind of, I was so comfortable. I hate that. Those are things. I read this thing about James Gandolfini. Like, always wants to just, no matter what's happening in a scene, I'll figure out some way to sit down. Probably for different reasons to why I want to do it. But like, it is a great thing to sit down. If you figure out some way to sit down in the scene, it's so much easier. Yeah, and then if you do it for ages, when you stand up, you're like, what are you doing? Figure out, I want to sit on the floor.
When you